A more serious topic today. Today we're going to talk about shadow work. Hi everyone, welcome to the SNS YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is very dear to my heart, and that is shadow work. Shadow work is the brainchild of the psychiatrist Carl Jung, and it is an exploration of the dark aspects of humanity. See, humans, we are very diverse and complex creatures. We do not just have a light side. No, we also have a dark side. We have a dark side. We also have an unconscious side, where all of our unconscious dreams, desires, fetishes, everything kind of resides within us. We're not just what we see on the surface, and we're not just the mask that we put on. There is a depth to us, and shadow work seeks to explore that depth and allow us to understand the layers of our being and the layers of who we are. See, shadow work is the acceptance of everything that is considered ugly and impure within us. As a society, we have these perceptions of what is good, what is holy, what is pure, what is safe, what is good and clean. And then we have a list of things that are sinful, shameful, dirty, ugly, disgusting. These are traits that we all have. We all have darkness within us. We all have a dark side within us. And shadow work is the exploration and the understanding of that darkness. Now, as I'm starting this talk, I'm realizing, where do I even begin? Shadow work is huge. It is a huge topic, and it has been covered by so many people, so many geniuses of our time. How do I even begin to explore this topic? Well, I'm going to explore it from the context of the left-hand path, the darker spiritual paths, and understanding our work with demons and our work with kind of the demonic essence of the self. For you see, shadow work has such a beautiful alignment with the left-hand path, because the left-hand path is the exploration of the darkness within us. It is the exploration of who we are at our core, and it is the holistic unification of every aspect to us, not just the sides that we want the world to see, but also the sides that we try to hide and conceal from the world. You see, within us we all have shame, we all have guilt, we all have thoughts which are not considered good. We have violent tendencies. We have sadistic pleasures. We have all these different facets that make us deep. We are not just a superficial creature on the surface. There is a depth and a complexity to us. Many psychologists will say that within the deep darkness of the human soul, every one of us could commit atrocious and terrible acts, and it is only through understanding and actually integrating those aspects of us within us that we can avoid becoming the darkness within us. The more we push the darkness down, and the more we deny it its existence, the stronger it grows and the more influence it has on us. Shadow work is so powerful because it is everything that triggers us. It is everything that impacts us, and it is everything that kind of assaults our senses. Why do we react to certain things but not other things? Why do some things hit us with such depth and power? Why do some things that we see bother us to the core of our soul? It's because there's a shadow element that is within us. There's a shadow aspect within the depth of our soul that is mirroring that, and it is mirroring our own feelings, yet masking them with something that's acceptable. This is why oftentimes when we're in situations that are traumatic and terrifying and horrible, we often experience full body sensations. These full body sensations are because we are being hit and we are being influenced by our shadows. Our shadows are poking us, they're prodding us. Shadows can be traumatic events, They can be secret desires, they can be dark thoughts, they can be dark aspects of the self. There's a lot of different layers to this. It's not just something where you go in and explore your triggers. No, shadow work has a depth to it in understanding and accepting the ugly and the violent and the sinister sides of the self. It is only through going in and understanding those violent, sadistic, and sinister sides that we can actually transcend immature darkness and embrace a more mature understanding of the dark elements within us. As I've said in past videos, mature darkness creates a balance. It is a unified force, and instead of the darkness being something to fear and something that we retreat from, a unified, mature darkness is an ally. It is something that walks with us and stands with us. It is strength and it is courage and it is power. And it is through shadow work that we actually begin to understand this darkness and actually begin to understand the power that sleeps within us. On the left-hand path, we don't shy away from the dark. Some paths tend to want to push away from the dark. There's a huge essence towards, there's no darkness. And when you are spiritually enlightened, there will be no darkness. You will transcend darkness. I don't believe that. In some people, maybe, but not in myself. I know that in myself, the darkness will not transcend out of me. It will transcend into me and be more aligned with me. I will have a greater depth and understanding of my darkness. I will have gone through the layers of my own sinister and sadistic nature, and I will understand those core elements. I will have a mature understanding of them, and through that I will be able to relate to others. I will be able to see the darkness in others, and there will be a unity. There will be a shared unity and a deep understanding. This is very hard work. It is incredibly hard work because there is an element of dealing with the triggers and the traumas in life. That is definitely an element of shadow work, is going in and embracing what damage was done to us. There is energetic damage, there is core damage, there is damage within the soul that needs to be healed. And sometimes it's not you don't return to the innocent state. It's learning how to integrate that darkness and allow it to grow from an immature state where it's harming you and damaging you to a mature state where you are empowered from it and you understand it and you can walk confident and tall knowing that yes, this happened to you, but now you understand it. You understand it in its depth and you know how to deal with it, and you know how to deal with it not just in yourself but in others. There is a maturity that comes from this work. You will never be the same afterwards. They say ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss because you live in an infantile state. You live in a state where you are you're shielded from the darkness. You're shielded from it. As children, we try to shield them from it, but they're not always shielded from it. This is because we're trying to preserve the innocent state. When that innocent state is broken, though, it's what do you do with it? What do you do with that innocent state once it's broken? What do you do with this horror that's just been forced upon your soul? How do you handle it? How do you manage it? That is where shadow work comes in. It's where you go into yourself and you understand your connection and your relation to this darkness. You understand how it impacts you, how it works within your body, and you learn through shadow work how to transcend it and how to transcend it into you. You won't leave it behind, but you will learn how to be empowered from it. You will learn how to walk with it, and you will learn to actually understand it at a depth that allows you to move through life not being impacted by the pains that it left in you. That is an empowered state. That is a powerful place. It's where you transcend and rise beyond that. And you know, hey, I'm going to be okay. I'm not just going to be okay. I'm now claiming my power. I'm restoring it into my body. And I'm walking as both shadow and light. When you walk with your shadow as a friend and guide, you are able to experience the world in a completely different way, and you are able to handle different situations and different interactions in a completely sophisticated and empowered way. You will not be beaten down by the world. You will rise to it and be empowered from it. Shadow work is so important for healing because you're basically going into all that was repressed, all that was done to you, all that lingers within you, and you are allowing it to rise, and you are allowing yourself to reclaim the power, to reclaim your power from it. That's not all it is, though. There's different elements of shadow work. Like I said, humans are dark and light. And there's a sinister aspect to all of us. Especially those of us who work with demons understand this, because the demons themselves have sinister qualities to them. You have to go in and understand your sinister qualities. You have to understand the darkness and the depth that is within you. Your ability to commit heinous and atrocious acts. They say that inside everybody is an axe murderer. There was a scientific experiment done where the subjects had to administer electric shocks to an individual. What they didn't know was it was just recordings. There was no individual there, it was just recordings. But in their mind, they were actually administering electric shocks to this individual. When an authority figure told them to administer those electric shocks, an insane proportion of those subjects administered a lethal dosage of electricity to that person. That is the darkness of the human soul. When an authority figure, when your darkness is left to its own devices and it's not understood, you will actually be faced with situations where authority figures can actually command and dictate to you what you do, to the point that you could actually kill somebody. That is the shadow of the human soul, and understanding that is incredibly important, because when you start to understand that and you start to accept that, it does not mean at all that you are going to go and be an axe murderer. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It actually means that you become empowered from it. You have more control over it, and you have more control of yourself. So many people I've talked to, they've said, oh, I have all these repressed emotions, and if I bring them up, it's going to be ugly and terrible. There's going to be fighting and yelling and screaming. And I'm like, well, bring them up. They obviously want to be heard. I don't think it's going to be that bad. And the second they actually bring up these emotions, what happens? Oh my gosh, it's like they can breathe. They can breathe. The emotions have a voice, and nothing bad happens. They just wanted to be heard. And then the person gets to explore, why did I think these emotions were so bad? Oh, shame. Shame. I was shamed when I was growing up. I was shamed as a young person. I was told that this was wrong and this was bad and this is terrible. So now they can face that. And they can say, you know what? It's actually not that bad. And when I actually let them out, there's nothing terrible about them. They're just emotions. They're just there. Emotions are a guiding force within us. They're a guiding force within our body, and oftentimes the dark emotions are suppressed and ignored, and this is where the danger comes in. When people's dark emotions are suppressed and ignored, oftentimes, if they are deep and if they are intense, they can develop a force of their own, and that force acts from the shadows of our own body. This is why I say, on the left-hand path, you need to do shadow work, or your shadows will control you. It's because you have all these unconscious patterns and these unconscious aspects of yourself which haven't been explored, which haven't been uncovered, and they are influencing you and dictating you from the shadows of your own body. The left-hand path is about freedom. It is about freedom and liberation from all these forces that are kind of governing you and directing you. This is your own shadow. Your own shadow will do this as well. It's not just society. It's not just people in the world that, are dictating and giving you, programs and telling you what you can and can't do. No, it's your own shadow and your own integration of what you've been told, your own enforcement of these hidden rules create the shadows that command and control you. This is why so much of what we do is actually unconscious. It's actually really scary how much of our daily actions are unconscious. They're unconscious and based off of patterns that we've learned growing up. We're actually creatures of habit and creatures of pattern. We follow a pattern. This is why when you're first doing something, you're very aware of it. You're very present. You're very alive with it. Like, think about the first time you learned to drive. You were very in tune with the car. Everything you saw. If you drove stick, shifting the gears was a challenge. You had to line up the foot pedal and everything. Fast forward 2 years later and you don't even remember most of your drives, I can guarantee you. Where does it go? It's because you've gone into autopilot. Your mind is designed to go into autopilot based on the patterns that you've learned. Shadow work is challenging those patterns and challenging the autopilot and saying, hey, there's some stuff in here that's guiding us down a path we don't want to go. There's stuff in here that's dictating different courses in our life and actually influencing us in a negative way. And when you go into yourself and challenge those patterns and challenge, your own autopilot and start to become present with yourself and present with the subconscious and what's down there, you take back control of yourself and your body. And you can actually change these patterns and change this autopilot so that it stops dictating where you're going in life. This is why a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I have the same thing happen over and over and over again. Why can't I get out of this pattern? It's because this pattern is within you and it's being created within you. And so it's being lived out over and over and over again in the external world. And until you learn the lesson, until you go into the subconscious and actually release yourself from that pattern, it's going to continue. This is why sometimes the worst things that can happen, actually Carl Jung said it, whenever something bad happened, he would celebrate. He'd say, this is a cause for celebration because now something good is happening. And when something good would happen, he'd say, oh, that's terrible. Now, I don't fully agree with everything he says, but I get the point of this. And I agree with what he said from the aspect of when something bad happens, it's not a bad thing. It's opening up different areas for you to explore, and it's opening up different energies for you to kind of embrace and understand. The repetitive patterns that happen in our daily life are markers and guides to what's going on inside of us. And a lot of that unconscious autopilot patterns are governed by the shadow aspects of the self. So when you are doing things that you don't want to do, when you are repeating patterns you don't want to repeat, it is usually coming from the shadow aspect within. So when you actually go into the body and explore your shadows and explore, all these suppressed and subconscious feelings within you, that is when you actually begin to gain control, to get control of your body, to get control of your actions, and to get control of the direction you want to take in life. So shadow work can be incredibly empowering for many different reasons. I mean, it takes the power away of the dark and sinister self. Because oftentimes, so many people fear their shadow. They fear that dark side. They fear what they're capable of. Have you ever heard someone say, I fear the monster that comes out of me? When you do shadow work, you go and you face that monster. You face the potential that you have within you to do great evil. And then you rise from it. You integrate it into your body. Awareness and understanding are powerful things. So much happens in our life because we run on autopilot. We run on autopilot and suggestion from the world around us. We're basically puppets being controlled. On the left-hand path and on any path that preaches independence and thought, understanding, and exploration, what we're doing is we're liberating ourselves from that. We're liberating ourselves from those energies, from those suggestions and those impulses, and we're actually getting in touch with who we are on the inside. From there, we're able to dictate the course of our life and actually figure out where it is that we want to go. We actually are able to then plot our life, take action towards it, not have to worry about sabotaging ourselves and destroying everything we built from the shadows. Self-sabotage, that's another area of shadow work. If you find yourself self-sabotaging everything good in your life, go into your shadows and figure it out, because that is a shadow pattern. When you go into your subconscious, you're going to find that you have beliefs, you have thoughts. Like it might be like, I'm a failure, I'm always going to be a failure. Or you're going to have different programs that are playing that are telling you you're no good, you're useless, you just screw everything up, and they're sabotaging you. So when you go into your subconscious and you're faced with those, you can actually release them. You can release them and you can clear them from your body, and then you can help yourself to move forward in life. Shadow work has a huge component when working with demons and other spiritual forces. When you are faced with darkness, when you are faced with the dark aspects of the spiritual world, they will be drawn to your shadows. They will be drawn to your shadows, and your shadows are very influential. Your shadows are actually the source of how malleable you are and how easy you can be mind controlled and persuaded to do things. A lot of people who haven't done shadow work and actually explored the depth of that energetically, when you inject dark energies into them, you can control them and you can command them. So the more understanding you have of your own shadows, the less likely you are to be controlled and influenced by others. It's a direct correlation. So a lot of mind control, suggestive magic, mental manipulation, spells that are designed to inject energies to make people do things, a lot of them are based off of your unconscious shadows and your lack of understanding of them. It's how the energies get in, it's how they infect your body, and it's how they control you. Mind control is the same way. Mind control basically operates on the other person. A person who is trained in mind control has the ability to walk in and gauge a situation. They can walk in and they can understand where other people are coming from. They know their shadows, they know their weak points, and they know their button points. And they can actually inject words, phrases, energies, movements, subtle things which persuade and act on the shadows and cause the person being controlled to bend to their will. It's a very powerful skill, and it is based off of the shadows. The less shadows somebody has, the less likely they are to be mind controlled. Mind control relies heavily on the shadow. A person who's attained mental mastery has gone in and knows their shadows, so they are in control of not only themselves, but the energies around them. So for those of you that do want to learn mental mastery and mind control, you do need to go into your shadows, and you need to actually understand what's going on in there. Because when you're in a situation where you're in a dance with another person, you cannot be influenced and directed by your own shadows. You have to be in control of the situation, you have to be in control of your energies, and you have to be grounded. You have to know your power, and you have to know what's going on inside of you versus what's going on inside of them. When you have no shadows, you become a mirror. You become a mirror where you reflect. And through that reflection, you can see the other person's shadows. They basically just manifest and rise. It's so easy to see them once you've completely stripped your own shadows and you have that clarity. And then when the other person is revealing their shadows, you are injecting energies into them and bending them to your will. So shadow work, doing shadow work, it's important for not being controlled either. If you don't want to be controlled and manipulated by others or persuaded, then you need to have a good grasp of your shadows. I can tell you, I see it all the time. People's shadows, they're their biggest weakness. It's amazing to watch. Like even people who say they have strong minds, watching them, how they get swayed and influenced by others, it's just incredible. It's just absolutely incredible how subtle it is and how easy it is when you are aware of somebody's shadows. So releasing those shadows and clearing them from your energy, it can only do wonders for your own mental health and your own health in general, and also your ability to retain your space and not be influenced by the suggestions and mind control tactics of others. So yeah, this topic is actually massive. I could probably do an entire series on shadow work, and I might actually do that because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of layers to it, and it is deep work. It is deep, deep, deep and powerful work. Some shadow work actually can kill you. Like when you go into the shadows, when you are faced with these sides of yourself, they actually can cause such traumatic releases in the body that they can actually kill you, damage you, hurt you, cause you to hurt yourself. It is not a path to be taken lightly. And with anything, if you ever experience any self-harm thoughts or any destructive thoughts, you need to seek psychiatric help immediately, and you need to make sure that you are being guided by a counselor who understands the various components of shadow work and also can help you through these challenging times. There is, there's a spiritual component to it, but there's also a medical component to it, which is why it was a psychiatrist who coined and defined it. And yes, we do shadow work on the left-hand path, but remember there is a psychiatric element to it. And if you start to experience signs and symptoms which deviate into the psychiatric element, you need to seek psychiatric help. I've always believed that medical science and spirituality need to go hand in hand to help people heal holistically, and so we should never shy away from psychiatric help when needed. It's very, very important. And yes, so I'm going to end this video there, but shadow work is incredibly important, and it's incredibly it's important for the left-hand path, it's important for your personal life, it's important for all areas of your life. And it's something that you can only benefit from. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like these videos, please feel free to subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell button so you know what's coming down the pipeline. If you have any comments, questions, and suggestions for future videos, please drop them below in the comment section and we might get to them in a future video. Until next time, guys. Bye.